Welcome back and thank you for joining us. And it's my pleasure to introduce you our speakers, Sumit Mahawar, Director of Business Development, Mintegral Company, and Anouar Benattia, Head of UA and Monetization, TapNation Company. Guys, please, your turn.
Well, pleasure to meet everyone, and thank you for joining our fireside chat. So, as Julia mentioned, we have the pleasure today of talking to Anwar from TapNation. They're one of the leading hyper-casual games developers in the space, and we're going to talk about all things hyper-casual in 2021 and beyond. So, we'll be discussing UA, creatives, ad monetization, and the kind of current state of the market for hyper-casual games. But before I present the speaker, I'd like to tell you a little more about Mintegral. You know, we're a very leading ad network, both focused in U.S. and Asia, and help with ad monetization, creative, and UA. So, and with that, I'd like to kind of introduce Anwar and then maybe let him speak about himself a bit. And he's the head of UA and monetization at TapNation. But take the stage, Anwar.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Sumit, for the quick intro. So, as Sumit said, I'm head of UA and monetization at TapNation. And what is TapNation? TapNation is a hyper-casual publisher. So we created the company 2 years ago, and we have now more than 250 million downloads. So it's working quite well. And as Sumit said, Mintegral is one of our best partners on the UA and monetization side. So it will be a pleasure to do this meeting with you.
Fantastic. We, as Anwar said, we have a long, successful partnership together, and great history. So, but I'd love to kind of explore that a bit and give the audience a little more context on where we started and kind of where we are now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, just to be quick, when we start our company, so of course was working with a lot of different partners, and we start really to work with Mintegral when we released our first games, Ice Cream Inc. It was 1.5 years ago, and from that, we definitely saw that Mintegral can be a huge partner on the scaling phases and even after. And on the monetization side, it was exactly the same. And more games we have, and more the relationship is strong. And since 1 year now, they release a new bidding setup for the monetization, and now I can definitely say that you are one of the closest partner that we have on both sides, UA and monetization.
Fantastic. Have you on your team noticed like a specific increase when we turn on bidding, or kind of like a metric there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. As I was saying, and as you may know, the bidding is taking more and more rev share in all the mediation, and we made, of course, all the tests from Integral Classic to Integral Bidding, and thanks to that, depends on the game, on the geo, etc. But the average increase of ARPDAU that we get from Integral Bidding is something between 1% and 5%. Which is a lot when you are doing $1 million downloads each day. So it's definitely a game changer for us, and this is why Integral in bidding right now, it's one of our basic setup when you start to scale a new game.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's one of the things when I joined Mintegral, I was kind of blown away by the engineering team here, and they've really worked quite hard on the algorithms here to deliver that performance to you as the customer. So fantastic to see you've seen the results, and it's great. And so, moving from kind of our history together, kind of would love to talk about the industry overall. Like if you could give us maybe a little bit of your insight and kind of where things are today, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so as you may know, some people that are always thinking that the hyper-casual will decrease, it will not be sustainable year after years. But in fact, what we can see is since the beginning of the year is that the global market share and the global volume of download of the hyper-casual games are increasing by 20%, which is a lot.
Yes.
And on the other side, you have more and more games, more and more competitors. So even if you have some issue with iOS 14 that we will talk later, the market is definitely it's still not, mature. It's still growing a lot. And I'm pretty sure that the hyper-casual market will stay here for at least 5 or 10 years with no problem.
Or maybe forever. I think maybe it speaks to some sort of truth about what's entertaining to people, and they find these sort of then fill the voids in their day with these types of games, and that's probably why has been and will continue to be a great genre. Another thing that's interesting, there's been a lot of consolidation in this space too. Players buying other players. But I think we've seen is the quality of the studio is really the most important thing. One of the most important things. Would you agree to that? You'd say?
Yeah, definitely. As I said very often when I'm talking with some people from this industry. At the end, you can have the better technology, you can have the better data, you can have the better UA skills or monetization skills. One of the most important things is the studio that you are working with and her quality. And as you said, you have a consolidation. You can talk about Rolik acquired by Zynga, and I think more acquisition will come soon. But even if you have more growth, more games, more publisher, etc. At the end,
guys. Sorry, we have some technical problem. Please, just wait some.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, no.
Sorry. We are trying to fix this.
No problem.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Fantastic. So I think you're talking about Rollick and sort of the consolidation. I think that's maybe where we got left off. So you want to pick it up from there?
Sorry, what did you say? I just heard you.
You mentioned Rollick as one of the examples of acquisitions in the space, and I thought, it's very insightful that you mentioned that one. But we can move to the next question I was thinking about was, when you're picking game mechanics for hyper-casual games, like, how do you tell what's the most popular, and how can you maybe identify this growth potential for a certain game or certain type of mechanic?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, to identify potential trends or current trends, it's quite easy. You can just go on the top charts on Apanis and Sorter or directly on the store, and you can see what kind of genre it's working a lot. Right now, we can just see that the runners are working since almost 1 year, and it's still growing a lot, and it's still more easy to scale. And on the other side, because we are a publisher, we are testing a lot of game, a lot of prototype, and of course, thanks to that, we have a lot of insights. We know that the runner can work better. We know that the FPS game can also work, even if it's less scalable than the other games. But yeah, the two things that you need to check if you are not a publisher, it's really the top charts, and see, if it's a runner, if it's satisfying, if it's, I don't know, a puzzle, etc. This is how you know what is the trend on the market.
Yeah, and I think speaking of trends, like where do you see the opportunities today? Like, what's the kind of the newest low-hanging fruit coming in the market, in kind of you and your team's opinion?
Yeah, definitely. As a publisher, the new opportunity on the hyper-casual global, it's really the bidding, and on Mintegral it's already live since a lot of time right now, but for a lot of network it's still not the case. So I'm definitely thinking that the bidding will be a new way to optimize the revenue of the users. And the other main point is that the UA. When I say the UA, it's just be able to go more further than what we are doing before. I mean, just targeting iOS, US, etc. I think that the next new way to increase a lot the volume and the margin, etc., it's really to go deep in all these tier 2 and tier 3 countries like India, Africa, Saudi Arabia. All this geo that was not very competitive before. I think it's a good time, to go on it right now. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic insight there, because I think we're seeing middle classes rising in a lot of other countries. I'm Indian myself, and we're seeing that market emerge too. So it's and that's one great thing about Mintegral is that we have, although our largest base is in the U.S. in terms of users and advertisers, it's just we have also a focus in Asia, which makes us very unique in ad networks. And we have never shied away from understanding this as a global economy, and so we have teams in every sort of region, which is.
You have more and more big company like Voodoo, Tencent take a minority stack on it, and they are mainly focused now in Southeast Asia, etc. So I definitely think that it's not only from my side, but even for the biggest company, that Asia is one of the new trends that we need to follow. That's
great, and I think that's a great move for everyone in the space to go that way. I think it's a fantastic move. It's one of the reasons I joined Mintegral, is to kind of ride the wave here, whereas the world is becoming more and more important, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think you mentioned TapNation seems good results with in-app bidding. So what are your thoughts on the current state of like mediation and bidding platforms, and and how does that evolve when companies like Zynga acquire a platform like Chartboost?
It's always a bit strange for us when you see that a competitor is now holding a network that was our partner before, but at the end I think that we are not on the same levels. Zynga is more bigger. They are working a lot of in-app purchases, etc. So of course it can be it can be scary a bit when you see that they will have access to all our info, etc. But I don't think it will be a game changer. The really thing that we need to understand on this side, on the monetization side, it's really that on the bidding, it's totally transparent. You cannot hide nothing. It's lifetime, etc. And it's only the best can win at each auction. So it's no matter if it's Zynga or AppLovin or any other network which is holding one or specific network or publisher, etc.
Right, and that's a good point you bring up. I think it's since everything's transparent, then in the bidding, there's more opportunities for more, gives you more choices as a developer to say, hey, let me see the performance of any network here, and that's kind of what I encourage everyone to do when evaluating, anyone, including us. Like, give us a try, and now it's becoming easier and easier to do that, giving you more choice, which is fantastic. I do think the trend might be more in line with what Zynga did, maybe more large. Publishers will buy at ad technology platforms, but luckily, Mintegral is independent, so that's so that's could be a good thing for developers. So we have so you can tell that the UA strategy plays a huge role in success of the game, especially with new titles. So what are the sort of launch strategies you have around new titles when you're that work well for you in the past?
Yeah. So it's the case for all the publishers. So you have a first step where you test the game only on Facebook or on some other network to see the CPI, to see what you can improve, etc. We can just call that the test phases. And after that, you have the soft launch. And before iOS 14, the soft launch was quite easy, I say, because you just have to plug all the UA on the different network, etc. But right now with iOS 14, it took more time. It's it's more complicated to see where you can buy and what are the real results. But and you have to do you have to do choice. You have to select which network you need to test to soft launch, and it's a good thing that we are doing the call together, because Mintegral is one of them. In fact, even after iOS 14, Mintegral UA is still quite strong, and it may be more stronger than before, and it's more easy for us to test. So yeah, to resume. To soft launch a game, once you have the good KPI to say, okay, maybe we need to push it. The second phase is just to test it in a different network, and Mintegral is one of them, but you have plenty of them, in fact.
That's great to hear. I think we've been hearing that from other publishers, from other customers as well, and it's great to hear that it's working well. I wanted to actually ask quickly about creative as well. When you're kind of launching a new title, what do you see there, and is there a strategy there when you're kind of getting a new title launched?
Yeah, the strategy is quite simple. Playable ads, I will say, because it's more and more complicated to interact with the users to get him attracted, even if it's rewarded video. So the main thing that we need to work on is playable ads, and the creative, the overall, even video or end cards, it's the only things where the human can still have an impact. On the bidding, on the UA, etc. It's a lot of data, but on the playable and on the creative side, it's really about the artist, and really about the human. And this is why we are working with a lot of external company, and also with you, not directly Mintegral, but Mindworks, one of your artistic business unit, I will say. And since they have experience, her playable, we can definitely see that her playable are working quite better.
Oh, great. Okay. That's good to hear. I think, we'll focus on that. I know certainly more and more networks moving that way as well, but we've been building it for quite a long time. So great you've been having good success. And then I want to get your thoughts on the pricing models now as things move on. Some networks have moved to the TCPI or OCPM, while Mintegral stayed with CPI. So I wanted to see kind of what the impact there is.
Yeah, as a UA, as I said, the most complicated things with iOS 14, it's really to track and to attribute correctly the users and to follow the spend. And it's true that the CPI is still the best model for us, because it let us estimate the cost it lets us do forecast, and it bring more accuracy. So some networks are working quite well with these new models, with the TCPI and the eCPI model also. But at the end, the CPI is the only thing that we looked at.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, just to go back in the playables thing for a second. Do you see that playables work better than video or normal video ads, or what's the sort of the breakdown there if you were comparing the two?
Of course, it depends on each video and each playable, but overall, the playable are definitely working better. And the good point that that I have to say is the CPI will be better, or we'll be able to spend more. But the other point is that the LTV of these users is basically better, because the users before when they come from a video, they just watch a video and maybe they don't know what is the real game. But when they play a playable ads and then download the game, they already know what is the game. So they are the probability to have them more longer in the game and have a better retention is higher. And this is what we can see. So the good point with the playable is that even if the CPI is the same, etc., you know that the LTV and the overall ROIs will be higher.
That's fantastic. So, and then how much do you put on that in-house versus with partners for creating?
Sorry.
For playables, how much of that is in-house versus with partners?
In fact, at TapNation, it's 100% with partners. We don't have any playable in-house. Why we made this choice is just because when we work with Mindworks or with other partners like Playable Factory, they are already working with a lot of games, a lot of publisher, and they know her stuff. When we work with Mindworks, for example, they already know for this specific game what can work, what cannot work, and it saves us a lot of times. And this is why, for the moment at TapNation we don't have any playable manager inside. It's only with partners.
I think that's a fantastic strategy. I think a lot of people pick that strategy as well. So that's very interesting that you guys are focusing that way. And I know companies have acquired they're all focusing on this. So a lot of partners have these, but Mindworks has internally been doing this for a while. And I think, like you said, there's a mature sort of ecosystem in there within that division that can help you and give insights and things like that, which can be really, really helpful. I think we've covered a lot of interesting points today. I think but what do you think the future is going to be like in Hypercasual? This is the interesting question. Maybe the $1 billion question.
The future for me, it will be more competitive, of course. We have more games, and it will be also more focused on Android and all the, as I told you before, the tier 3 and tier 4 geo. This is for me the future. That don't mean that the iOS and the US will not be the main focus for all the publisher, but the future of the market will definitely be more competitive. And you can see it, if you check the overall App Annie or Sensor Tower ranking, you can see a lot of games be on the top 10, be on the top 20 or top 100, and they just fall and drop of the ranking because the publisher are testing more and more games because it's more competitive. Sometimes you have a game that you think will work and it's not working, etc. So I think I think it's more competitive. You need to have more skills, and of course, as I said before, more qualitative studios. It's the most important thing.
And I think you've also mentioned the costs have been rising too, right? So when you say competitive, the costs are rising, but then do you see that trend continuing, or is it kind of maybe it'll level out at some point?
Yeah, I think it will still increase, of course, even with iOS 14, But the point is that we are on a full ads model, or more or less full ads monetization model. So when the CPM are increasing on one side, the eCPM and monetization are also increasing.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, we are not sure. Of course, we'll see what the future will say. But when the eCPM on Mintegral are increasing by 10%, we know that the eCPM on monetization on Mintegral are also increasing by 10%. So it stays stable at the end. The margin will not move a lot.
That's a good point.
Of course, it's not that simple. But
no, of course.
Since we are doing UA on other publisher and they are doing UA on our games, it's kind of a circle,
Do you want to share any other details of TapNation? I think the case study, we published that last year or so. So the numbers are there maybe a little bit outdated. If you want to give people more of an update of the company overall, I think that this says you have 130 million downloads across iOS and Android. I'm sure that's increased quite a bit. So maybe you want to give people an update on your numbers or the company overall.
Right now, we have more and more games. We just released 5 games in the last 3 months, which is which is a lot. We've seen that we are increasing a lot, and as I told you, Android is becoming more and more important. So we are really focused on that. And one of our top success is just Giant Rush that released with you guys, because you was one of the top network with us on the US side. We already reached 90 million downloads, and it's still increasing a lot. The game is still on the top. So yeah, this is what I'm proud, because Giant Rush, it's what we want from a hyper-casual. It's just ragdoll and runners, and it's working.
Right, yes. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think, like you mentioned, when a game mechanic works, it works, right? And it's you just build upon that, right?
Exactly.
So I think do we have? I know we have. We've covered a lot of things. I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and wanted to see if we can open up the floor to Q&A and see if we can answer some questions. If not, we can keep. I mean, I think Anouar and I can keep talking all day, but.
No, they can ask questions, and we will answer if we have the answer, of course. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think you muted.
Sorry, guys. Thank you for this question. Yes, we have some questions, and the first one. What do you think are the most important skills a hyper-casual game developer needs to have to become great?
Yeah, I will answer, and maybe also Sumit have a lot of insight about it. But for me, more than the design, it's really the mechanic. You have to do a smooth things, and of course it's easy to say that. But one of the good example, as I said, it was Giant Rush. It's just a runner with a ragdoll, and you have 100 copy on the stores, but we only have Giant Rush, which is working. Why? Just because of the game mechanic. The game is very simple in terms of artistic design, but when you have a good mechanic, when it's smooth, when it's juicy, this is the main important thing that you need to have.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. Just having worked with so many, I was on the account management side before, and working with so many hyper-casual titles. What sets it apart is like what becomes addictive, or rather, more fun to play. Something that where you get lost in the mechanic, like Anouar was saying. So. I think that's definitely the biggest thing. I think it's good, and that's almost going back to the basics of game design, right? I mean, like it's you're not thinking about big graphics or any massive celebrity stuff. It's really about the fundamentals of what makes a game fun.
Okay, thank you. The next one, and the next one. What's your thoughts about using third-party meditation for UA and monetization? Should we use only one meditation, or should we combine multiple meditations at the same time?
Mediation, you said, right?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you are talking about monetization, mediation, I think it depends of each publisher, but the best way to have one. The reason is just because you have a lot of data that you need to aggregate. And it could be very complicated if you have like 3 mediation on one game, or 4 mediation. It's almost impossible to estimate the correct LTV from this or this. So yeah, have one mediation is definitely the best way to do, I think.
I think you pick the mediation partner that supports Mintegral, and you're good to go.
Also, of course, but yeah, one mediation is enough.
Yeah,
I don't think it's worth it to have a lot of mediation, and you have all the trouble with the SDK stuff, etc.
Yeah, I haven't, in terms of what was emerged as best practice, I haven't seen many publishers or developers use multiple mediation layers. So maybe there's probably a reason for that, like Anouar was saying, the complexity.
Okay. And the next one, what are the biggest challenges with the new iOS 14?
Yeah, very interesting questions. Before the release of iOS 14, all of the publisher, and including me and TapNation, was afraid about the margin, about if iOS will still be profitable, etc. But in fact, the real challenge that we face is not that. It's just about the tracking, about the attribution, about the aggregation of the data, and about the global picture that you need to have. This is the main issue, because the margin, if the CPI is decreasing on one side, the CPM are decreasing on the other side, as I said. So yeah, the main challenge right now is really to have a big global picture. And as you know, on Hypercasual, it's very granular things by network, by geo, by sources, etc. So it could be a big challenge. This is the main challenge that we face: the attribution, the tracking, and have a correct data visualization.
Yeah, I think just echoing that, that's what we're seeing as well, and also it's a big change for everyone. So that's part of the challenge too. Just the newness of it. I think everyone's getting their bearings straight and kind of rethinking almost like 10 years of learning, on how to deal with advertising on iOS. So I think overall things will normalize. I think the companies have companies like us have to do the hard work of like the optimization, retooling our algorithms and things like that. But luckily, Mintegral has done the work early on. But I think once everyone else catches up, I think it'll all normalize a bit.
Okay, thank you. And the next one, what is your main focus when you start working on a game prototype?
Yeah, the main focus is before it was the CPI, but right now it's the game retention and in-game stats. The volume of playtime, session length, interstitial if we have, rewarded if you have. Why I'm saying that? Because as I told you, 1 year ago, the CPI was one of the top KPI that we need. Okay, you need to have 20 cents on Facebook, and that's all. It's okay on the iOS US. But since the market is more competitive, you really need to explore everything. And this is why at TapNation we are totally focused only on the game mechanic itself and on the global LTV that the game will generate. And for the CPI, it comes after. And we think that we can still find margin, even if you don't have a 20-cent CPI at the beginning. So I think the main thing that you need to focus here is definitely on the game itself. The session, if with 1 or 2, 3 levels at least, you already have a very good session length and very good playtime, that you have a good game. We know with Ice Cream Inc., and I will stop because I can talk again hour and hour. Ice Cream Inc. was quite simple when we do the first prototype. It was only 3 levels and the retention was 40%. Just because the game mechanic itself was great and it was juicy. So I think it's the main focus that you need to put. Simple things and very attractive.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Is there any way to verify that the game mechanism I made is good before launching the game?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Sure. Is there any way to verify that the game mechanism I made is good before launching the game?
Unfortunately not. if we can, TapNation can release 100 games per month. But the advice that I can make is just check the trend. Now it's quite easy to see the top chart. It's also easy to see which game is still on the top. It's easy to check what are the prototype testing by some publisher or other publisher. So just take the trend. You don't need to be a genius to see that the runners are working a lot. And if you want to limit the risk, do more runners.
Yeah. And then the only piece of advice is like just studying design thinking and things like that in grad school. A lot of it was around getting feedback. So maybe having user sessions, play with them, play along with them, watch them play. Find keep friends, or pay using testers to sort of get the data, watch them, and see if they get the results that you want from the session lengths you want, etc. So maybe before releasing it, you can test flight and things like that. So the more testing, the more kind of surveying you can do, the better.
Okay, and maybe the last one. What are 3 factors when you decide to cooperate with a new ad network?
Okay, very interesting question, in fact. The first thing that we need to check is that if the network is integrated with the mediation, of course, because if it's not integrated, we cannot use it. And except that, as a publisher, we are very open, Just like games, we test all the games that we can, and as a publisher, it's the same with the network. We work with all the network that we can, and after that, just above the KPI, Even I'm saying, Mintegral is a good network. We are doing this meeting today together, etc. At the end, what we are just checking is the increasing of ARPDAU. And when we have Mintegral, the ARPDAU is increasing, So I think that if you can, test all the network that you can and just compare. If it's working better, if it's improving your KPI, keep it. If it's not, don't let it in your games.
Okay, thank you guys. We have time limit, unfortunately. I need to tell you thank you again and see you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Keep going.
Bye.